Fuck, I am never gonna wear these shoes on court again. What's cooking, YouTube? Welcome back to another detail review by Uncle So. This time to wrap up the highly anticipated JB4. Before we start, remember to like and subscribe to the video. That way you won't miss any of the future videos and you'll really help the channel. Remember, this is a shoe channel to review shoe for uncles by uncle. Without further ado, let's talk shoes. To start the detail review, let's talk about how I play. I'm a 5'10", 185 pounds. I play 1 through 4. I like to change of pace and dishing dime. My modes of attack is usually about 6 shots or 4 drive out of 10. Let me start with this. If you're the target audience of the JB4, this is your next goal, aside from some durability issues. If you're not, like myself, then you'll fucking hate this shoe as much as Miami hated Jimmy after he lost his joy. So let's start with the first gatekeep. The fit of the shoe. This shoe is deceptively wide. However, with the new foam material around the shoe, I would actually recommend this to be true to size. The foot mode seems to be a little bit wider than the JB3, which is a good thing as JB3 is already a wide foot friendly shoe. But the JB3 has the XPU upper, which does break in and allows you to fit wide foot. This new foam material does not break in very well. So if you're perfectly fitted to this shoe, even if you're a bit wide foot, wonderful. If you're not, if certain parts are pinching you, they won't break in. Price is about $230 US or so and $300 Canadian. It's a little bit in short supply. It's very pricey compared to JB3. I expect the future colorways to come down in price as this shoe should not be in high demand. So let's move on to the player assist tech and motion interference. JB4, like the JB3, features the full-length boom in the carbon core drive system format. The carbon core drive system, the carbon fiber plate is only 3/4 length, goes from midfoot to forefoot. I think Jimmy actually prefers this setup because it's exactly the same in the JB3. The difference is the carbon fiber plate is significantly more aggressive in the JB3, and there's also a thicker foam in the JB3. JB4 is thinner foam and the plate is not as shaped and it's not as aggressive. This shoe is very bouncy and the rebound is super evident. More so than the JB3 to me. The JB3s are aggressive. Yes, the plate's very aggressive, the snapback's very strong, but the JB4 is lower to the ground, low profile because the foam's also thinner. Disregarding the rest of the shoe, I really like the midsole pad in the JB4, more so than the JB3. Some of the best games recently actually did come from the JB4. The upper is also all new tech from LiNing, a foamposite-like material, but far lighter. It has the same real property as the foamposite, so it's very rigid and really good for protection. But it also comes with all the downsides except for weight. So one of the big downsides is that this is a very stiff upper, foamposite, right? And it really takes about a few sessions to really break it in. The first session you will probably crease it and you start to break that part in, but it really takes another session or two to really break it in. But the fact that it doesn't really expand out really kills the fit. One of the best things about JB3 being wide foot friendly is that TPU material, XPU I think, really can just expand and wrap around your feet, and it's a very soft TPU. This doesn't. So even though the foot mode might be slightly wide, if your feet doesn't fit it shaped perfectly, you're shit out of luck. If you are narrow feet like myself, this doesn't come in very well either. So lockdown for me on the forefoot is actually a problem. And it will be a problem for anyone that's narrow feet. This is a stiff upper, and then there is a carbon plate which is also have its own stiffness, making this a very hard shoe to snap. You need a lot. If I try to do it like this, it's really hard to snap this shoe. The big problem with this, in a normal carbon core drive system, the power you put in is the power you get back from your carbon plate. In here, you need the power to bend the plate, and you also need the power to bend the upper. So this part is dead power that you're wasting, and it does increase the stress on your feet a lot. when you're wearing these JB4s. Now, covering the motion interference of the shoe, the XBR is very evident. Even though the motion engineering on the shoe tries to minimize the pad, this part with its weaker than normal lockdown in the forefoot, its rigidity, and the fact that you don't get as much out of your steps as you should, the motion interference for the JB4s makes the shoes very evident. So to give it a rating, if you fit the shoe mold, the pad in this shoe would actually be SS grade. Very strong midsole performance and a very safe upper. However, most of us won't fit the shoe mold, and this is just horrible with its motion interference. In that sense, I would have to downgrade this to an A grade. The motion interference of the shoe is a D, so I would actually downgrade this pad overall grade to a B grade for people that don't fit the shoe mold for the JB4s. Let's move on to Uncle Soul's 4 pillars. Let's start with traction. Full-length GCU, but very shallow treads. The shape of the treads are in the JB logo and thorns surrounding the JB logo, kind of representing Jimmy Butler's adventure in the NBA, a very thorny path. Kind of like his injury recently. I mean, very sad for Jimmy. Pray that he recover and have one last run before he retires. In terms of the traction itself, amazing. JB3 is often said to have the best traction on dust. The JB4s, I would say, is basically the same. Sharp GCU traction on clean courts, and on dusty courts, it bites through dust. Same sharp traction, very crispy. There are 2 differences between the JB3 and the JB4s in terms of their outsole. Number 1, this new compound of GCU does attract dust a lot more. The JB3 barely need to wipe, and the JB4, after a while you need to wipe, although the dust doesn't really affect the performance. The second problem, which is the major problem for the JB4, is that the durability of this GCU is far worse than the JB3. I played in these for a month, and in high traffic areas, you can see that I have grounded those shallow treads to nothing. This one still has some, but this one is grounded to nothing. I am literally biting into the base level of the GCU. It still works. The compound itself bites into the ground perfectly. However, eventually I'm going to grind right through this into the boom foam. So thankfully, I won't be burning through my GCU because fuck, I am never gonna wear these shoes on court again. Moving on to cushioning. We talked about it in pad, full length boom, CCDS, and this is the best part of the shoe, by far. I love how they lower the center of gravity by cutting some of the foam away, and still didn't affect impact protection because jumping in these shoes and landing it, no problem. And the plate that they replace with is milder, but the performance I'm getting out of these are far better than the JB3s, I feel. It could just be the better court feel combined with a easier to flex plate and the motion engineering design that I'll be talking about later. But the whole system itself is one of the best midsole that I used in recent times, rivaling really the WOW 12s. Moving on to stability. This is one of the more stable shoes that I've tried on. A very wide heel and a huge lateral flange, and overall a very flat shoe on the bottom makes this shoe extremely safe. I can say this shoe is probably as safe as the WOW 11s, but far better motion engineering. And finally, the final pillar, lockdown. This is where all of this goes wrong. So first off, if you fit the foot mold of this shoe, or you're Jimmy Butler, you'll think the following is a crazy rant from a crazy person, because you'll feel none of this. If you're not one of those people, you'll experience the exact same thing I have. So in the WOW 12 review, I've talked about something called lockdown hotspot. That is that even if the shoe itself fits, some part may be tighter and pinch you a little bit more. Some parts may be too loose and whatnot. The WOW 12 was so well done because there was 0 lockdown hotspots, right? It's the complete opposite with the JB4, unless you fit the mold perfectly. A lot of that came from the upper. So the first hotspot is the third lace hole. This has a wire that runs straight through the shoe into the footbed. Obviously for lockdown purposes, so this can really wrap into your shoe. As you guys may or may not know, I have a high instep. This is the part where it just completely pinches me. And not only is the laces pinching me, the wire itself that is supposed to tie your foot down just digs right into my foot. Obviously, I can't tie this too hard, otherwise it just chokes my feet. I also have a little bit of a concern over durability of the wire because when I felt the wire, it's actually quite thin. So I'm not sure how durable it is if I actually manage to crank it down for a long period of time. The lateral sidewall, like I said before, very unforgiving to wide foot. If you're a wide foot that is not the shape of Jimmy's foot, you will run constantly into the sidewall, or you just may be a complete mismatch with these shoes. I know this because when I wore thick socks one time playing in these, I'm narrow foot and it was pinching my pinky toe. And another problem is similar to the WOW 12, and it is surprising because this shoe is just boom and not super boom. Again, I know for a fact this comes from the upper, because when you take hard lateral step like this, the forefoot slides, micro slides, no safety issue, but you lose power when you do these kind of micro slides. And that is because my forefoot lockdown on this shoe just doesn't tie to me one-to-one. So all of that means that this shoe is functional. It really isn't a very fun shoe to play in because it pinches you, you slide, and all that goodness in the midsole is wasted with how terrible this shoe wraps around your feet. To wrap up, from a functional and safety standpoint, the JB4 scores an S grade in the 4 pillars. But if you add in user comfort into the mix, this is a B grade. Now onto performances. The first thing we are starting with is motion engineering, our new segment. And that is to describe how a shoe can be one with you and how motion engineering and design team can help achieve that. Again, if you start with the disclaimer, if the shoe fits you, this is the shining point. This is the bright star of the JB4. There's no dead spot coming in, obviously, north to south. With lateral steps as well, the hard part of this heel is mitigated by the fact that the boom in here is still thicker and softer. And in the case of transferring the steps into your forefoot, having this part right here kind of stowaway but allowing for compression lowers the center of gravity in your midfoot so that you're rolling into a very early rocker. Making this step kind of goes like this. So you're never slapping the floor. It kind of goes like this. Is a correction right around the forefoot, which is where you flex. And then in medial step, it's the same way. This part is, LiNing's best engineering. Going into your medial step, that's the exact same thing and kind of goes like this. Despite how wide and safe this shoe is, a very well-designed motion engineering. Kudos to the team, as long as you fit the shoe. And another part of this motion engineering that's really good is that they understand how stiff the IBR is. We talked about the rocker starting very early. That is to mitigate the amount of times you need to flex this shoe. I actually end up playing a lot on my forefoot like this, just so that I am not forcing the rest of my foot to flex this shoe because it gets really tiring. So in basketball, a lot of players play like this. I generally play with a faux foot, but when I was wearing the JB4, a lot of times I'm doing this as well. This actually is almost like an on and off switch for the CCDS, because when you're doing this, you're not flexing the plate. Only when I want to trigger the system do I play from heel and up. This is normally a jump step or when I'm trying to break through. So a very interesting design to put an on and off switch for the CCDS. With that said though, when you do trigger the CCDS, when you're using the faux shoe into its fullest potential, this is a very, very draining shoe. Normally when I'm wearing a shoe like this, something with a carbon fiber plate, I feel it the next day. I usually do, it doesn't matter, even if it's WOW 12, I feel it next day. These are the first shoe that I have worn that I feel immediately after I take a rest. That could be right after the whole session where if I never sat during the session, so my adrenaline is starting to go down, I'll feel the impact on my calves almost immediately. The worst is when, sometimes you lose in pickup runs and you sit in between games. When that happens, the fatigue and the pain kicks in. I'm forced to change out of these shoes because otherwise I wouldn't be able to play for the rest of the night. So with that said, motion engineering, I do have to give it an SS grade because it is very well designed around the safety features. Material, it is premium. This IBR material, this new foam material, it feels really good. The inside is also padded very well. It's a very premium shoe to put your feet on. The problem with this is that the durability of the GCU is awful. And the durability of the foam is also awful. And I don't know why they decided to do this, but if you take a look at this lace hole here, there are multiple reports on Reddit, and actually I can see it myself as well, although not as high of an impact. When you crank down the laces here, you start to stretch the foam. And eventually, I would think that would probably snap the foam and you'll lose that lace hole. I don't know why they didn't reinforce the lace hole here. Maybe they have too much trust in their foam, but this is an actual durability problem. So there's two durability problems with the GCU and the foam. And for me, there's a third one with the durability of the wire inside the third lace hole. The value of the material is really high for this shoe, but because of the durability, I have to give material a B grade. Breathability. It's actually surprisingly good given that the whole shoe is wrapped in foam. The tongue is very open. There's a lot of holes to let a lot of heat out, so it doesn't actually heat up inside the shoe. Moisture, unfortunately, can only escape from here, so an A grade. Price to performance, absolutely terrible, especially because the JB4 exists. These shoes, if it fits you perfectly, they do perform better than the JB3s. They're also $350 Canadian. The JB3s, you can get them for a lot cheaper now, especially when they're on sale. And the performance between the two, these are better, but not that much better, especially not 2 or 3 times better. So unless you fit this foot mold perfectly, I wouldn't even recommend these. There's a lot of problem that goes with this shoe, durability aside. But if it does fit your foot mold, eventually when they go on retail or, go on sale, these might be the best shoe that you will have. You just have to buy a couple pairs because you'll probably grind through them, 1 per season or something. And like I said at the start of the video, this shoe is an SS grade if it fits you perfectly, even with the durability issue. The better performing midsole, very premium material, and marvelous motion engineering. I think these are better than JB3 in terms of motion engineering. For the rest of us, this is a straight pass. I say this knowing that this is going to get me probably blacklisted from LiNing as well, after I get blacklisted from Jordan and Nike with the Luka 5s. But I have to say it, it's solely designed on one type of foot shape, and it really disregards everybody else. I did not have fun. Despite how good the midsole is, despite how good performance I had when I'm wearing these shoes, I didn't have fun playing in this shoe. There was pain pinching everything under the sun. With the GT Cut 2s, at least there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Once I broke in the shoe, I felt good for the rest of my life until the shoe breaks apart. These, I broke in and it still feels like shit. So there is no light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm very disappointed because I absolutely love how retro-futuristic this shoe looks. It looks like your phone paws it. Unfortunately, these are probably going to end up as walking shoe because it still feels pretty good with boom underneath your feet. The non-Jimmies, this is going to go from an SS grade to A. Recommendation. Who would I recommend these shoes to? Jimmy Butler. I would say Steph Curry, but even Steph Curry is starting to wear the Wild Trials a lot more now. So I think he sees the same problem as I do with these shoes. They just don't fit well. And for the rest of us that don't fit, I do not recommend this shoe because they will cause you more pain than the performance you get out of them. Not to mention very expensive. So athletic ankles that fit the shoe shape, chill ankles or any other ankles that can play on their forefoot a lot, shooters that, fit the, what I mean, right? If you don't fit the shoe shape, do not buy this shoe. The JB3s is significantly more forgiving and maybe 80% of the performance of the JB4. Cheaper, better fit, almost the same performance. LiNing has made a lot of good shoe recently. I reviewed the Wild 12s, the Liren 6v2 is also coming, and those are amazing shoes as well. This one is just not there. If you're really adamant at getting the JB4s because you feel like you're the chosen one, the only way to test these shoes out if you don't have a LiNing store near you is to try on your JB3s. If the JB3 KPU doesn't need to expand out to wrap around your feet, or if there's no weird spots that bulge out or tightens on your upper on the JB3, then congratulations, you are the chosen one. Anyways, here's another unbiased review from Uncle So, which is going to get himself blacklisted from LiNing, but this is what I'm here for. So, until next time, remember to stretch.